A NoMoreStinkyMonkeys.com production. It is April 24th, 2015, Game 1 of the Subway Series. The Mets-Yankees Subway Series has its origins that go back as far as 1903, when for the first time there were three teams in this town. The Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants played in the original National League, and after the Baltimore Orioles were kicked out of the National League in 1899, they joined the new American League in 1901. In 1903, they left Baltimore and came up to New York and became known as the New York Highlanders. The Highlanders got their name because they played up in Harlem on 168th Street in Hilltop Park, one of the highest points in Manhattan. They were just a few blocks away from the very successful Giants and their Polo Grounds. The Dodgers and Giants played over 20 times a year in the National League and were bitter rivals. When the Polo Grounds burned down in 1911, the Giants played in Hilltop Park as well, and the two teams became much more friendly. So when the new Polo Grounds opened in 1913, the Highlanders moved in with the Giants, and since they were no longer playing on high ground, they officially changed their name to what the New York papers were already nicknaming them, the Yankees. At this time, the greatest team in the American League was the Boston Red Sox, and their star pitcher turned outfielder, Babe Ruth. When the Babe was sold to the Yankees so the Red Sox owner could finance his new Broadway play, No No Nanette, the wheels came off the Boston bus and the Yankees started driving the limo. In 1921, Babe Ruth was hitting so many home runs in the Polo Grounds that the Yankees were regularly outdrawing their landlords in the Giants. This did not sit well with Giants manager John McGraw. Then they played in their first World Series against the Giants in an all-Polo Ground World Series. So while it wasn't technically a Subway Series, it ignited one, as the Yankees were told to leave the stadium after 1922 and find a new home. In 1923, they opened the new Yankee Stadium. For the third year in a row, they faced the Giants in the World Series, the first Subway World Series. And when the Yankees won, there was a new sheriff in town. Back and forth, the three teams played for the next 34 years until the Dodgers and Giants headed west and left a lot of people crying. The blue from the Dodgers and the orange from the Giants became one when the proposed Continental League was scuttled and their New York team, the Metropolitans, became the new National League franchise in 1962. Ironically, also for the next 34 years, the Mets played against the Yankees as well, in spring training, and until the 1980s in the Mayor's Trophy game, an in-season exhibition game that all of New York paid close attention to during those summer months. Another ironic thing happened during those pre-Subway Series years. The Yankees' reign of success over New York and the baseball world ended the year the Mets came to town, 1962. That was the last Yankees World Championship. They wouldn't win another one for 15 years. By comparison, in the previous 15 years, they won 10 World Series, so it became a town for the Mets taking, and from 1969 to 1975, they did. Led by Tom Seaver, they won a World Series and another pennant and had mostly winning seasons. After the Yankees won two more series in 77 and 78, they went into another tailspin from 1982 to 1992, and again the Mets were the toast of the town for those years, winning another World Series and finishing first or close to first from 1984 to 1990. So by 1996, the Yankees had only won one more World Series than the Mets in their 34-year history, and one of the last taboos in baseball was about to be broken, interleague play. Every other sport plays games between all teams, but in baseball it was never done during the regular season before. The traditionalists all said that it would take away from the special qualities of the World Series and the All-Star game. And in retrospect, they were right, especially when you look at the television ratings of those games. But what it has done instead was add real juice to the middle of the season. Now the greatest players come to every town at least once every 3 years. Imagine back in the 50s, teams like the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Phillies, and the Pirates never got to play against Mickey Mantle. With interleague play, that would never happen again. And the biggest monetary reason to have an interleague series is the vaunted Subway Series. After it was announced, the Yankees turned around and won their first World Series in 18 years in 1996, which made the 1997 Subway Series even more exciting. And then the Mets were having their first winning season in 7 years in 1997, competing for a wild card spot. So on June 16, 1997 at Yankee Stadium, the Yankees and the Mets played their first official game in their history, the first official Subway Series in 40 years. And journeyman pitcher Dave Malicki won it for the Mets 6-0. Since then, they have played 98 such games, and the Yankees hold the edge with a 56-42 record. This all set the stage for the last World Series of the century, indeed the last World Series of the millennium, the 2000 World Series. The Mets were one of the best teams in baseball in 1999 and were comfortably going to the playoffs when they fell into a tailspin in September and had to fight and claw their way into an extra play-in game against the Reds on a Monday night. Then they defeated the Diamondbacks in 4 games in the division series, but went down 3-0 against the rival Atlanta Braves and fought back valiantly, only to lose in Game 6 on a bases-loaded walk by pitcher Kenny Rogers in extra innings. If they had gone into the playoffs comfortably like they should have, they would have had their pitching set up better and probably been a lot looser. They might have played their first World Series against the Yankees that year. But instead, they came back in 2000, won series against the Giants and the Cardinals rather easily, and then won the pennant and finally got to meet the Yankees. They lost that series in 5 games, and it was probably one of the toughest 5-game series any team ever lost. And we've been waiting 15 years for a rematch, actually just to get back to the World Series. In the meantime, the Yankees have only won 1 World Series since that time. For now, we have this series and the one in September, and this town will feel like October for 3 days. It certainly feels like October weather-wise. From the Predator.